President Donald Trump has been a divisive figure known for his wealth, which he has often portrayed as self-made despite receiving significant financial support from his father, Fred Trump. In this video, we will explore the truth behind Trump's billions and how his father played a significant role in his rise to prominence. Fred Trump, a hustler who lost his father at a young age, entered the construction industry and built his first residential house by the age of 20. He took advantage of the opportune timing of President Roosevelt's New Deal, which aimed to promote residential construction by providing low-cost loans and subsidies, which Fred eagerly utilized. Starting from the 1930s, the United States implemented various housing subsidies, including those through the New Deal, military housing during World War II, and the post-war housing boom facilitated by the GI Bill. During this time, Fred Trump, father of Donald Trump, accumulated wealth largely through the substantial sums he received from the government. In 1949, the Federal Housing Administration, or FHA, granted him a $26 million loan to build 2 apartment complexes in Brooklyn Shore Haven and Beach Haven. What's noteworthy is not that he gained wealth using government funds, as it was quite common, but that he initiated a significant campaign of channeling money to his children when he was only 40 years old. He employed simple yet effective methods such as purchasing land for the apartment complexes, using his company, creating a trust for his children, and donating the land to it. Subsequently, his construction company had to lease the land from the trust through a ground lease contract, whereby the trust would receive an annual income of over $60,000 for 99 years, benefiting Donald Trump, who was just 3 years old at the time. However, the ground leases were just the beginning, as Fred Trump continued to transfer the ownership of the buildings to his children over the next 2 decades. He would purchase land through an empty corporation, construct apartments on it using government funds, and then gift the company's shares directly to his children. Although this scheme incurred gift tax, it appears that Fred Trump did not pay it. Reviewing Fred Trump's tax returns reveals that he only paid gift tax on 1 out of the 8 buildings he transferred to his children using questionable means. For instance, in 1968, he built a partnership worth $2.5 million and gifted 15% of it to each of his children a year later. Based on calculations, the gift tax should have amounted to nearly $100,000, but he only paid a fraction of that, 6.5. It is important to note that Fred Trump had a history of underpaying taxes and had faced legal action from the state of New York multiple times during the 1950s and 1960s. Despite these tax issues, he had no trouble obtaining millions of dollars in subsidies, likely due to his political connections. In fact, during this period, Fred Trump's most significant project was Trump Village, for which he received $50 million from the state of New York and later passed down to Donald Trump using dubious means. After graduating from college in 1968, Donald Trump joined his father's business, and that's when the wealth transfer to him accelerated. In 1972, Donald and Fred formed a partnership to secure an $8 million loan for building Prospect Tower. Interestingly, although Fred Trump did most of the work, most of the profits went to Donald Trump. In addition to share from the partnership, Donald Trump received consultancy and management fees, as well as income from tenants' payments for air conditioners. By 1975, Donald Trump was earning over $300,000 per year, just from that one building. And when other sources of income were considered, he had pocketed $9 million from his father by the age of 29. It is worth noting that Fred Trump's goal was not only to enrich Donald, but also to create an image for him to establish his career. A 1976 profile of Donald Trump claimed his net worth to be $200 million, attributing projects that were actually his father's. At that time, Donald Trump was the president of the Trump Organization, which came with a substantial salary, and he also constantly received loans from his father. In 1979, Donald Trump received loans totaling $3 million from his father's companies, and the structure of these loans was quite interesting. Although they carried some interest, it was paid back as soon as the loan was taken out. Since there was no repayment plan, Donald was able to keep the money indefinitely. He received similar loans again when he was working on his first project in Manhattan, converting the Commodore Hotel into the Grand Hyatt between 1979 and 1980. These loans appeared again when he was building Trump Tower between 1980 and 1983. During this time, Donald's father, Fred Trump, devised another scheme for his children. Using multiple trusts, he would buy off the mortgages of at least 14 of his properties and transfer them to the trust, with Donald and his siblings as beneficiaries. In effect, Donald became his father's banker in the 1980s, as he pocketed the interest payments without actually providing mortgage loans. By the end of the 1980s, nearly $50 million had been transferred to Donald from his father's empire through various distribution methods. However, this only encouraged Donald to take even bigger risks. In 1988, he purchased a Plaza Hotel for over $400 million, and a year later he spent over $350 million on Eastern Airlines, which he named Trump Shuttle. Most notably, he entered the casino business in Atlantic City. While the details of the story are extensive enough for a separate video, what's important is that when Donald's casino started failing in the early 1990s, it was Fred who provided support. He personally gave Donald millions to prevent the casinos from defaulting on their debts before bankruptcy proceedings could restructure them to allow more time for repayment. For example, Fred's personal income increased significantly to $50 million, resulting in a tax bill of $12 million. During this time, he made no significant debt payments or charitable donations, and given his frugal nature, it's unlikely that he would simply pay taxes without reason. It is believed that the money went somewhere else. Around the same time, one of Fred's employees went to the Trump Castle Casino, bought $3.35 million worth of casino chips, and left without placing any bets. Another tactic Fred used was to buy stakes in Donald's properties and then sell them back to him at a loss a few years later. In 1987, he purchased a 7.5% stake in Trump Palace, a 55-story building in Manhattan, for over $15 million. Fred sold his entire stake in Trump Palace for just $10,000, claiming that the business was failing, even though it had sold 57 condos for over $50 million that same year. In the early 1990s, Fred's health declined, and he showed signs of dementia. To avoid paying estate taxes before his death and transfer his remaining wealth to his children, Fred's children incorporated a maintenance company in 1992, which became the subcontractor for all of Fred's buildings. The company charged a large markup on repairs and improvements, resulting in increased costs for Fred's properties. In 1994, Donald and his siblings also became managers of Fred's buildings to further drain cash from his empire. By 1999, Fred's methods were providing each of his children with $2.2 million of income per year. When it came time to transfer the properties themselves, the valuation of the buildings became the main concern. Donald and his siblings hired a notorious real estate appraiser to help him bring down the price of 25 apartment complexes with 7,000 units to just $40 million. One method used was to calculate two buildings in Trump Village to have a negative value by manipulating the accounting based on the removal from an affordable housing program. In the end, the transfer of Fred's entire real estate empire cost him $20 million. And that's a wrap for today's episode. We hope you enjoyed learning about the incredible facts and stories we shared on our channel. If you're hungry for more amazing knowledge, be sure to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any of our latest videos. Until next time, Stay curious, keep learning, and be amazed by the world around you.